Okay, we're going to talk about directional terminology. The purple words on the board are the directions that you need to know. The blue are the planes of the body. So let's start with the planes. Median. If you think about the road, the highway, the median divides the road into equal left and right parts. So the median goes down the center of the body, divides it into equal left and right halves. Sagittal runs parallel to the median plane, but it doesn't divide the body equally. So it divides the body into unequal left and right halves. Dorsal divides the body top from bottom. So I like to think of it like if this is a horse walking into water, as the water comes up the trunk of the body, that's the dorsal plane. It divides the body top from bottom. And if you think about when you were in career prep, you learned that the dorsal plane divides a human front from back. If you take that human and put him on all fours, it divides the same way. It's just top from bottom because it's a four-legged beastie. Transverse plane divides on the short axis. So if you look at a leg, a transverse plane would cut across, cut into pieces. You could do that on the neck, would cut this way. The trunk of the body would cut this way. The tail, if they had one, would cut that way. So that's a transverse plane. So those are the planes of the body. Then we've got our directional terms. I'm going to skip rostral for a second and go right to cranial. Cranial means towards the head. Caudal is the opposite. It means towards the tail. Rostral means on the head but towards the nose. What I mean by that is this. Let's pretend this dog was bitten by a snake and there's holes right here. The doctor's going to say, I want you to clean the one that's more cranial. This one's more caudal, this one's more cranial. I need you to clean the cranial one. But what if he got bit on the face right here? He can't say clean the one that's more cranial. Cranial means towards the head, and I'm literally on the head. I can't be more on the head. So he would say this one is more rostral. Well, this one then that would be caudal. Because caudal refers to towards the tail, but also the back of the head, because on the head, rostral, caudal, cranial, caudal. Okay? We also have dorsal and ventral. Dorsal is referring to towards the spine. Think of a shark or a dolphin. They have a dorsal fin because it's on their spine. I try to avoid saying it's towards the back because on people, your back is on your back. But on them, are you talking about their back or the back? So I try to either say towards the spine or towards the tail to make it very clear. And I hear that a lot in practice too. So dorsal means towards the spine. Ventral is the opposite. It means towards the chest or the belly. You can think of ventral like ventilation towards the chest. Medial and lateral are also opposites. Medial means towards the median plane, so towards the inside of the body. So for instance, these legs, this would be the medial surface of these two legs. Lateral is the opposite. This would be the lateral surface of the legs. Then we've got proximal and distal. Proximal means closer to the point of origin in relation to another part, in relation to another body part. So let's look at this leg. This leg originates, it starts at the shoulder. So this is the proximal portion of the arm. Down there would be the distal portion of the arm. So you can think of proximal as close in proximity, distal like it's distant. The whole part about in relation to another part is sort of like this. Think of your arm. I cannot say my elbow is distal. To what? Think of it like the country or the city even. Tempe is close. Not really if you're in El Mirage, but it is closer than Texas. So it depends on what you're talking about. So I can't say my elbow is distal. I can't say it's proximal. It is proximal to my wrist. It's closer than my wrist, but it's distal to my shoulder. It's farther away than that. Let that one sink in. It'll make more sense the more you think about it. Anterior and posterior are also opposites. Anterior, we're talking about the front of a leg. Posterior, the back of the leg. So here's anterior, posterior is back here. On those limbs, you'll also see in some books they call it cranial and caudal, but it's way more common to call the anterior side and posterior side of a limb. And palmar versus plantar. These are your palms. Palmar is the bottom of the front feet. Plantar is the bottom of the back feet. So you plant your feet. That's how you can kind of remember that one. Another word on that. When we're doing x-rays of feet, for instance, the top of a foot is dorsal. It sounds weird, but it runs parallel to the dorsal surface, dorsal plane and all. So this would be dorsal, this would be palmar, this would be dorsal, this would be plantar. So if I was going to take an x-ray, let's say this is my dog's paw, and I was going to take an x-ray of the paw, and I wanted it to go in the top of the front paw and out the bottom of the front paw. So I've got it like this. This is going to be a dorsopalmar view. You've got these words, these combining words now. So you would have, let's say he was going to have an x-ray like this, and we're going to go through the chest and out the back. These compound words, the first half of the word is where the beam goes into the body. It always comes from above. And the second half of the word is where the beam goes out of the body. So this would be a ventrodorsal x-ray. Okay? Sometimes we kind of bypass that. So this would just be a lateral x-ray. But you want to qualify that. So this is a right lateral thoracic x-ray or a right lateral abdominal x-ray. You don't have to say medial lateral because they're just on their side. Kind of the same with a knee. Let's say I was going to take an x-ray of this knee. This would be a lateral right stifle. 3 terms you need to know for x-ray. Carpus is wrist, stifle is knee, and hock, tarsus, and ankle are all the same thing. So stifle, carpus, and hock. Make sure you know those. I think that's everything. Let me know if you have any questions.